We're going to get into reading some of this. And for me, I think it's important to first start with pranayama. So we'll get back, we'll double back and hit the yamas and niyamas, but let me read just a passage here from Yoga Light on Life about pranayama. So I'm going to go to just this open card right here, so you don't have to see me with my glasses struggling to read the fine print. Okay, pranayama. Just as the word yoga is one of wide import, so is prana. Prana means breath, respiration, life, vitality, wind, energy, or strength. It also connotes the soul as opposed to the body. The word is generally used in the plural and indicates vital breaths. Ayama means length, expansion, stretching, or restraint. Pranayama thus connotes extension of breath and its control. This control is over all functions of breathing, namely inhalation and inspiration, which is termed puraka, or filling up. And then there's exhalation or expiration, which is called rechaka, or emptying the lungs. And then the third is retention, or holding the breath, a state where there is no inhalation or exhalation, which is termed kumbhaka. That's the pause. And then in Hatha Yoga, text kumbhaka is also used in a loose, generic sense to include all the three respiratory processes of inhalation, exhalation, and retention. And a kumbha is a pitcher, a water pot, a jar, or a chalice. And a water pot may be emptied of all air and filled completely with water, or it may be emptied of all water and completely filled with air. Similarly, there are two states of kumbhaka, namely one where the breathing is suspended after full inhalation, and then it says in parentheses, the lungs being completely filled with life-giving air, and two, when breathing is suspended after full exhalation, and that means when the lungs are being emptied of all noxious air. Noxious, huh? And the first of all these states where breath is held after full inhalation, but before exhalation begins, is known as antara kumbhaka. And the second, where the breath is held after full exhalation, but before inhalation, is known as baya kumbhaka. Antara means inner or interior, while baya means outer or exterior. Thus, kumbhaka is the interval or intermediate time between full inhalation and exhalation, or between full exhalation and inhalation. And in both of these types of breathing is suspended and restrained. And pranayama is thus the science of breath. It's the hub round which the wheel of life revolves. As lions, elephants, and tigers are tamed very slowly and cautiously, so should prana be brought under control very slowly in graduation measured according to one's capacity and physical limitations. Otherwise, it will kill the practitioner, warns the Hatha Yoga Pradipika in chapter 2, verses 16. And the yogi's life is not measured by the number of days, but by the number of breaths. Therefore, he follows proper rhythmic patterns of slow, deep breathing. And these rhythmic patterns strengthen the respiratory system, soothe the nervous system, and reduce cravings. As desires and cravings diminish, the mind is set free and becomes a fit vehicle for concentration. By improper practice of pranayama, the pupil induces several disorders in the system like hiccups, wind, asthma, coughs, cataracts, pain in the head, eyes and ears, and nervous irritation. It takes a long time to learn slow, deep, steady, and proper inhalations and exhalations. Master this before attempting any kumbhaka. So yeah, that's before any type of breath retention or any of that. And those maladies, this is just off the cuff, those maladies that I just mentioned, well, those maladies, if you have them, you can see they were brought on by the arrhythmia of your breath. That's where the emotional excitement of life is, hijacking your breathing rate, making it irregular. So that's where pranayama can help you bring you back into the rhythm. So, if you have those cataracts and pains in the head and hiccups and all that, the winds, the asthma, these things that are the winds, well, hey, maybe reverse engineer that, dipping into the pranayama. So let me get back to reading this chapter here. As the fire blazes brightly when the covert of ash over it's scattered by the wind, the divine fire within the body shines its all majesty when the ashes of desire are scattered by the practice of pranayama. Quote, the emptiness of the mind and the whole of the illusion is true vichaka, that's exhalation. The realization that I am Atman, which is spirit, is the true puraka or inhalation. And the steady sustenance of the mind on this conviction is the true kumbhaka or retention. This is true pranayama, says Sanskrit. and it says, every living creature unconsciously breathes the prayer, Soham, so he, Abraham, I, he, the immortal spirit, I am, which each inward breath, so it's really Soham, but then they get all this mumbo jumbo in there. Let's see here. It goes on to each living creature throughout. The yogi fully realizes the significance of the japa mantra, so it is released from all the fetters that bind his soul. He offers up the very breath of his being to the Lord as a sacrifice and receives the breath of life from the Lord as his blessing. Prana in the body of the universal, and that's Jivatma, is part of the cosmic breath of the universal spirit. The universe, or the attempt is made to harmonize the individual breath with the cosmic breath through the practice and principles of pranayama. And it's been said by Kariba Eken, the 17th century mystic, if you would foster a calm spirit, first regulate your breathing. For when that is under control, the heart will be at peace. But when breathing is spasmodic, then it will be troubled. Therefore, before attempting anything, first regulate your breathing, on which you temper will be softened, your spirit calmed. The chitta mind, which is reason and ego, is like a chariot yoked to a team of powerful horses. One of them is prana, or breath. The other is vasana, or desire. And the chariot moves in the direction of the more powerful animal. If breath prevails, the desires are controlled, the senses are held in check, and the mind is stilled. If desire prevails, breath is in disarray, and the mind is agitated and troubled. Therefore, the yogi masters the science of breath, and by regulation and control of the breath, he controls the mind and stills the constant movement. In the practice of pranayama, the eyes are kept shut to prevent the mind from wandering. When the prana and the manas, which is the mind, have been absorbed, the undefinable joy ensues. And that's from the Hatha Yoga Pradipaka, chapter 4. All right, so emotional excitement affects the breathing rate. Equally, deliberate regulation of breathing checks emotional excitement. I love that. I love it. I say it all the time. Excuse me. And the very object of yoga is to control and still the mind. The yogi first learns pranayama to master the breath. This will enable him to control the senses and so to reach the stage of pratyahara. Only then will the mind be ready for concentration, which is dhyana. So the mind is said to be twofold, pure and impure. It's pure when it's completely free from desires, and impure when it's in union with desires. And by making the mind motionless and freeing it from the sloth and distractions, one reaches a state of mindlessness, which is the supreme state of samadhi. So that's why in Zen they're always talking about no mind. And then this state is mindlessness. This state of mindlessness is not lunacy or idiocy, but the conscious state of the mind when it's free from thoughts and desires. And there's a vital difference between an idiot or a lunatic on one hand, and from a yogi striving to achieve the state of mindlessness on the other. The former is careless, the latter attempts to be carefree. It's the oneness of the breath and the mind, and so also the senses, and the abandonment of all conditions in existence and thought that is designated yoga.